The ninja that will become Hokage of the village, hidden in the leaves. He never backs down. Naruto Uzumaki.
I couldn't get enough of Naruto when I was small. I found it around the time that I was first learning what the term anime was. And through Naruto, I discovered my interest in the rest of the big three and so many more anime. Yet I've never been a huge fan of Naruto as a character. I admired his foolish conviction about who he was and what he wanted to become, but he lacked the finesse of, say, Neji or Sasuke. He also debuted as somewhat of a punk on screen, and he lacked the more gentle traits I associate with myself. But as the Naruto series settles deeper and deeper into nostalgia, I tend to look at him with a more thoughtful eye, and when I place him up against other extraordinary protagonists of the shonen category, I realize that there really isn't anyone quite like Naruto. The conviction that Naruto has as he climbs and scrapes to become the greatest ninja in his village, the mettle behind his Nindo.
I'm not done yet! I don't quit! And I don't go back on my word. That's my Nindo, my ninja way.
Has a depth that cannot be matched. It is clear why Naruto has this conviction. We know what he wants in his story. He wants his village to recognize him and to become the Hokage, and he wants to bring Sasuke back to the village. All of these things are lofty ideas, but achievable. Yet what makes Naruto's conviction toward them so astounding is where he came from, his tattered past. The scene of Naruto sitting on a swing or watching families from a distance is quite ubiquitous in Naruto. It shows the depth of sorrow that he had in his past. It shows just how lonely and empty his life was. We know that before his story began, his parents lost their lives on the night of his birth. And all that was left to him was a small apartment, perhaps an allowance, and a caretaker or two that we can't even see gave him much support. And what is so remarkable about these short flashes of his past and what can easily be overlooked about them is that they were merely a few of maybe hundreds of moments in which he was sad and alone. Naruto debuts in his series at the age of 12, so the world that he lived in prior to then, for over a decade, that loneliness, even as he found those who would help him like Teuchi and Iruka, was a constant for him.
Iruka-sensei.
Moreover, as an unaware Jinchuriki, Naruto was faced with hatred and anger from strangers, villagers who knew this closely guarded secret, and those who just associated him with that fateful day the Nine Tails attacked and viewed him as a danger.
Hey, you see him? Don't play with that kid. You never know what
To think a mere child would have to endure that confusion about who he was and why others turned their faces from him from his birth, without even knowing why. Naruto's childhood was one of fear, loneliness, confusion, and little love. So when Naruto says he isn't going back on his word, he means it. His Nindo was stronger than 12 years of pain, where he defeated his own fear with grit and determination, training alone and crafting his dream with little guidance. His Nindo was strong enough to defeat the hate he felt towards the villagers that scorned and neglected him during his formative years. To become Hokage, the person that all the villagers would have to look toward for guidance and protection. His Nindo was strong enough to never lose hold in his mind of the one person, probably the first person in his whole life that he saw himself in, or with, that he truly admired for all his talent when he left the village, vowing to bring him back. The mere threat of that vow being legitimately broken by fellow ninja who wanted to see Sasuke gone as a rogue ninja, by forces outside of his control, gave him a panic attack.
And if you've truly resolved to become a Kage, then you're going to have to do what needs to be done as Sasuke's friend.
Calm down, Naruto. He's hyperventilating. Slow your breathing down.
Yet Naruto steeled himself again to see his dream come to fruition. Naruto isn't like most shonen protagonists in that most shonen protagonists, despite their losses, despite everything that was taken from them to motivate them to fight for what they want, most grew up with a sense of love and belonging. Naruto, unlike some shonen protagonists, also didn't have his journey thrust upon him. He didn't know who to take revenge on, or even that he should be a ninja. No one asked him to do it. There was no great threat that compelled him to take up his kunai and fight. He could have become a ramen maker if he wanted, and to his village he would have just remained a bargaining chip. But Naruto chose his dream. Naruto's Nindo rejects his past and the consequences of his own struggle. His pain doesn't matter to him. His fear doesn't matter. How far away his dream is doesn't matter. How he looks doesn't matter. He'll be a fool and a loser and alone until he reaches victory if he has to.
Dismiss him from your mind and move on. To be a ninja, you need more than strength and jutsu. You must acquire the judgment to make the right decisions. If you want to live as a ninja, you must become smarter. This world is no place for a fool. That's the reality.
I understand. If being smarter means what you say it does, I'll remain a fool my entire life. I'll create some incredible jutsu, and I'll rescue Sasuke no matter what!
He decided with his own mind what he wanted, what he knew would be good for him. He chose his own path, his own ninja way, and the space he wanted to take up within the world is of his own choosing, supported by his relentless drive. And he never went back on his word, and he never gave up. He became the Hokage. The village saw him as a hero, and he even brought Sasuke back to the village. Words fail to express what it takes for a person to reach his dream the way Naruto did, with all that would tell him no, even as life and loss continued to happen to him. It takes extraordinary mettle to do so. Naruto has extraordinary mettle. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't mention how Naruto Shippuden included some canon at the end about how Naruto was fated to be great. But what I think is important to point out is that Naruto was great and good. And even if fate was something he had on his side, I believe that fate can be something that you create for yourself, that you draw into your own life through your own relentless determination.
I am going to protect